How about that intro? What's up, 12s? I'm AB Hasselbeck. So excited to be hosting the Seahawks Collective presented by Hog Media. And thank you to you guys who have had 2 killer episodes already this summer. So excited to join you. We got Brian Nemhauser, Hawk blogger, basically on every live feed all the time, all day that you can find him. Rob Staton, Seahawks draft blog, calling in from England, and Michael Sean Dugar covering the Hawks for The Athletic. Father of 6-day-year-old. Congrats to his new son, Dream. So pumped for you. And an author, a book coming out next week. Is that right?
That is right. Thank you for the shameless plug opportunity. The franchise, Seattle Seahawks, drops August 12th, a curated history of the Legion of Boom era, available for pre-order wherever books are sold.
Hey, that was, you were on it automatically. We could record that and make it a full commercial. But before I introduce myself, Rob, I have to ask you, because you're calling in from England, what's like the go-to late night snack or drink? Caffeine? How are you staying up?
Oh, well, if I have too much caffeine now, I'm not going to sleep. But I have a good old cup of English tea with me tonight. And in terms of a snack, I'm really bad for late night snacking. I have to try and avoid it at all costs because I'll just go in. I will eat a whole block of cheese if it's there. So I need to be careful about that. So yeah, so I've not eaten anything tonight, but maybe I'll try some cheese next week.
I don't know if a block of cheese has ever been my late night snack. I don't know what you guys.
There's always a first time for everything, AB.
How we roll in the UK.
I love it. Well, guys,
wow, block of cheese at 1 a.m.
No, I don't know about that. I think that caused some stomach problems, but I'm excited to be on with you guys. And Brian, just thank you to you specifically for inviting me on the show.
Oh, easy choice. And man, I've told the story to other people, but I got to say it quickly. When I got to know Annabelle last year as a Seahawks intern, had no idea what her last name was. We were talking for the entire summer, just chit-chatting on the sidelines. And she's like, yeah, I was in Seattle and then I lived in Tennessee. And I never put 2 and 2 together. And she never used her name or her background or her connections to like make her case. She was just good at what she did and made a real impact, an impression on me. And I think everyone that works with the Seahawks. So now that you're a big star over in New England and Nesson, we're lucky to have you on as our host here.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. It was a super fun summer for me and just great learning experience, and got to wheel you guys all the media in the lunch every day and take it out. And it was incredibly just fun for me to be a part of the Seahawks organization. I was literally felt like I was born in Quest Field, spent 0 to 10 years old around the Seahawks following my dad's career, and just what a special time to be in one place for so long. And yeah, just honored to be back and love the excuse to talk about the Seahawks whenever I can.
Well, it's great to have you.
We're so pumped. Well, I got to know right before we start for Mike and Brian, how are the interns this year?
Polite, which is always nice. They don't know. They must not know who's been here and how long. Because like yesterday, one of the interns, nice kid, he was explaining to me, he's like, yeah, man, I'm gonna go get him after practice. I'm gonna bring him right here. Where do you want to do it? You want to do it here? He was just asking me all these like very fundamental, basic questions. I'm like, this is training camp 9 or something like that, dude. I'll wait right here. I'll be right back. Go get AJ Barner, dude.
I'll tell you right now, they don't tell you who's been around and who hasn't been around. So I can tell, doing their job. I probably did it to all of you guys at some point. So
they're all really nice though.
I got to shout out Hallie, intern, who has been really great, really nice. And she was horrified. She brought over someone for an interview with me, and then she knocked the camera so that half the interview is like of my chin. And she was like mortified. She tried to fix it. Like, doesn't matter. Appreciate it. But Hallie's been great. All the interns have been great.
She's really helpful. Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
Love to hear it. That's awesome. And it happens when you're starting now. I had millions of those and thinking about them, I'm like, we're going to move on. So let's talk about just this past weekend, because it was a big weekend at Lumen Field with Football Fest on Saturday. I saw Cam Chancellor was out there, Marcus Dufont hyping up the crowd. And Brian, I'll start with you. What was the vibe just getting to be on Lumen Field for the first time this season?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like this mixed bag where in one sense you're walking on Lumen Field for the first time that year and you get to see, the fans and the players. The other sense, it's like, a fifth of the capacity of what that stadium can be. And it's a different kind of atmosphere. But I think to me, what I always take away from the football fest is watching the rookies pull on their Seahawks uniforms and walk out on Lumen Field really for the first time and get to play in front of fans in that atmosphere. And it was great to see. I mean, it was great to see Jalen Milroe warm up and the reaction he was just getting from throwing the football around, and great to see Nicky Manwari play to the crowd as he's already done. And I think it was a successful, relatively injury-free, unfortunately, other than AJ Finley, moment there. And honestly, that's been an issue. Like a couple of years ago, Kenny McIntosh was lost during Football Fest, and there's been injuries during that scrimmage. So I think that was probably the thing that the coaches care about the most. I don't know if you had anything different, Mike.
Yeah, I missed it this year. It's weird. I missed that quite a bit. I missed it for like a journalism conference one year. I missed it the year I was at a wedding. I got kicked out of a wedding, actually. The year Brandon Jackson hurt his neck. I wasn't there for that. I was there when Kenny got hurt. And then I wasn't there this last time. But what I do when people ask me about covering the team, like in the football nerd sense, something I tell them is that like you feel the speed of the game so much differently when you are there. Like sitting in the press box, we're pretty high up. Like some fans have better views than us in the press box. Like watching DK run by you when you're like 15 feet from him, that's different. That's so different. And I love that every time we get a chance to do it at Lumen. Like even last year, I could hear Mike MacDonald giving the calls to the defense, like actually hear the verbiage. That was really cool last year when we were on the field. So yeah, I love that experience. It sucks I keep missing it, but it is so much more different than even just listening to practice from the VMAC.
We're just going to slide by the fact that you started that with saying I got kicked out of a wedding. Maybe we'll save that for another.
That's a longer story. Yeah, I'll tell us at some point.
It wasn't my fault.
So everyone watching, you gotta give a reason to come back.
I will tell it. I promise. But yeah, it wasn't my fault. I will throw that out. It was not my fault. I was.
We'll be the arbiter of that.
Well, okay, Rob, I know you weren't at Lumen Field, but do you have any plans to get to Lumen Field this season?
Yes, I'll be there week 1 against the San Francisco 49ers. So I'm going out a few days before. And going to be out there. Looking forward to it. I've never done a week 1 before. Typically, I go around at Christmas time. And I don't have the best record seeing the Seahawks live. I have to warn people of that right off the bat.
That was a mistake. You should not have said that.
I know. But the thing is, if they lose again when I'm there, I'm going to end up saying it straight after the game, and I'm going to hear it anyway. So I'm just preparing everybody now. I have no influence on the game. So if the Niners win, I'm not on the field. I'm not coaching. I'm not the refs. I'm just watching with you guys, so it's not my fault, but I do not have a good record traveling to Seattle.
Rob, I got to tell you, man, it's a numbers game. I used to like the first, 3 or 4 Seahawks road games I went to, they lost. And then including 2013 in Indianapolis, flew out there with the team, and it's a numbers game. Eventually you'll see a win, and let's hope this is the one.
Yeah, I have seen wins. It's just been a long time now. So it'd be nice to see a win in the first week of September. So that'd be great.
Well, we'll see. Well, I'm glad that you'll get to be in Seattle. It's still beautiful in that area around that time. So that should be really fun. But I remember just around this time last season when they did have that practice on Lumen Field, Mike MacDonald said that just for himself, it was a great opportunity to have a dry run and just get used to being in the stadium on what a game day might look like, just from like the logistical side, right? I don't know how it all went down for him last year, but he probably had to figure out where's the coach's parking, right, in the stadium at the field. So just before we talk about specific players, I'd love to know from each of you, like, how have you seen maybe Mike MacDonald settle into his role now in year 2? And maybe we'll start with you, Brian.
Yeah, I think it seems like a pretty stark contrast to the coach that I remember us talking to after practices last year. And a couple things stand out to me. One, his emotions were pretty evident last year. You could tell when he was upset by a practice, and often he was upset because the offense played well. And like he was still a defensive minded guy. This year, he seems like the same dude. Practice in, practice out. So that seems a little different to me. And then the other thing is he's mentioned it. He's gone on in interviews, talked about the fact he's working with Michael Gervais and Steve Hauschka and getting coached on how to, be a better coach and how to relate to the players. And it's not that he was, unable to talk to a player last year or anything like that, but he seems so much more at ease and comfortable in his own skin. And I think the vibe that I get from him and the players feels so much more comfortable and less kind of like first meeting, first date kind of vibes that I think last year felt a lot of first dates. So yeah, that's kind of the two things that I would kind of call out.
Yeah, I think that Mike is still learning to be a head coach because it is a lot. You're a lot more just front facing. You got to shake a lot of hands and kiss a lot more babies than when you're the coordinator. You got to do all the local radio, all the local TV. Nowadays, you probably got to sit in a couple podcasts. It's almost like being a college coach where you got to go to like these banquets sometimes and like hang out with some rich people, just do all this stuff besides dial up blitzes. And he just seems a little bit more comfortable with all that. Not to say he likes it. He'll probably never like it. But he's getting better at that. He's getting a little bit more comfortable in how to address injuries and just everything else with players. Because Pete kind of had his way. He was so used to it. It's like, all right, how do I say a guy stinks? Yeah, he made it through. He made it through today. That was Pete's way of saying like, oh, this guy actually sucks. But Mike's kind of figured out how to praise guys, how to keep things level, like what the players are paying attention to on social media, how to send a message through the media, all just little like veteran coach things that I think is really important. It goes a long way, particularly talk about guys in the media. In today's game, that was something Pete had to probably learn more on the fly because he's an older dude. He started coaching before there was internet, whereas Mike's kind of more aware of how that goes. But how you talk about a guy, his attitude, anything can be clipped now. Like you got to be aware of that. And sometimes guys, families, and their coaches, and their high school teams, and their colleges, their college teammates, they're only seeing what the coach says. They may check in on their guy. Hey, bro, how's camp going? May get an answer, may not. But what the coach says, they might see. It might go viral, So Mike seems a little bit more aware of that, on top of just being like super secretive and super gamesmanshipy. But that part is kind of standing out.
There's one other thing that I've noticed he does in press conference. I don't know where I heard him say this. It might have been a press conference or an interview where he's willing to poke fun at himself a little bit. Like he will tell a story of how he went to the team and tried to tell them some anecdote or a story and it didn't go well. And then he's telling the media that it didn't go very well and he's kind of having a laugh. And I quite like that because it shows that I sometimes I get the sense with coaches, they can't be seen to show any kind of weakness, especially to the public and to everybody else. And he does, I think he is willing to let his guard down a little bit and have a bit of a laugh at himself. But I also think he knows who he wants, what he wants. When something's not working, when a player doesn't really fit, I think he knows it quite quickly. He might not come out and say it, but with his actions, I think we're learning quite quickly what he likes and what he wants. And this defense, by the end of last season, was looking fantastic. And if he can ramp that up even more this season, then that could be the key and the identity to this team being pretty good again. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what he can do in year two.
Yeah, and even just for you guys, like on the flip side, it's probably made your job, just how he's gotten more comfortable with the media. You guys probably understand him a little bit more and know what questions to ask and just understand his personality. But let's talk about the guy who people are calling the steal of the draft, the 5th rounder, Tory Horton. And I heard that Reek was yelling, Jerry Rice Jr., which is not something you hear a lot of defenders calling their rookies at training camp that in public. So Mike or Brian, were you guys around when this happened?
Yeah, I heard it. And maybe, how old is Reek? What is he, 26? Probably something like that. I'm only asking because I'm like, how much Jerry Rice did you even see? I'm like calling seriously, because what did
26.
He's 26, so that's, I'm doing math.
1999 is his birthday.
Oh yeah, there's no way it's all highlights. It's all highlights of Jerry. Maybe he's seen the full game. That was something in my mind. I'm like, how much? Because isn't Jerry's son in the league now? I want to say, doesn't he play for like the Chargers or something? Isn't it Brendan? I think Brendan Rice.
Yes.
Yeah. So like, that was funny though. But it shows that like, it reminded me of like, how Richard Sherman used to hype up his teammates quite a bit. Sometimes like he was lying, but Sherman was huge for that. Be like, yeah, man, this guy's killing it. This guy should play more. That was a little bit of a throwback yesterday when Reek did that.
Yeah, I was actually doing another interview, so I wasn't there when that happened, but I did talk to, ask Reek about it today during his press conference. And, why of all the players is he calling out Jerry Rice Jr. for Tory Horton Jr.? And he's like, because he's doing against the bigs. Like, he's a rookie and he's in there doing it against the ones. And I think one of the things people have kind of been hesitant to say is like, hey, he's a 5th round pick. He's probably doing it against 2s and 3s. And that is where things started. But I don't know where your eyes are, Mike, but I'm seeing him getting reps with the ones pretty regularly. And I'm seeing him start. I think we even heard Mike MacDonald today kind of open the door for maybe like he's competing with MVS for snaps.
Oh, absolutely. He's taking them away. Yeah, he is absolutely doing that. I saw them today go through what's probably the lineup that'll start the game on Thursday night. And it was Drew Lock standing next to Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And that's not good for MVS to be like, oh yeah, 2's up, you're in there. That's usually not good at all. I think what stands out to me about Tory, regardless of who he's going against, there's just things you can assess about receivers. Someone the other day asked me about him, and I just was like, he's a really good athlete. Every time I keep watching him, that really stands out. He has really good balance in and out of his breaks. Like, you see some guys trip and fall sometimes doing some of the cuts. The cuts aren't very smooth. Like, he has great balance. I missed the day that he went up and I think he mossed. Like, wait, did the kids say mossed anymore?
Yeah, well, I do.
Aged out of that. I do. I just naturally, I don't know if the kids do that now. Anyway, he mossed Josh Jobe. I was out that day, but I saw the clip of it. And I was like, exactly. Like, look at that. Like, he's bouncy and springy. He's got really wide like base when he runs, so he doesn't trip over his feet. And it's hard to like move him off his spot when he's trying to cut, like at the top of routes. It just really shows up. He's just a really good athlete. And when you view it through that lens, you can kind of see who's not. When you watch some of these guys, even if they're good players, like I give you a good example. Like, Bobo's not like a super great athlete, but he's still a good player. But you see like how he has to win. He's very deceptive with his routes. He's a really good toe tap guy, probably the best on the team now. Whereas like Tory, it's like, oh, he might just jump over this guy. Like, he might just go up and get that. He might just, he's got the quick twitch. Like, all that shows up with Tory. And no matter if he's going against 3rd stringers, 2nd stringers, or going against Reek, like that's what I think what Reek's talking about too. It's like he's not only doing the stuff against the ones, but it's also what he's doing that's standing out.
And Rob, what excites you about Horton and just what you've seen so far?
Well, when I did all the draft prep, I had him in the grade in the range, sort of late round 2, round 3, sort of generally about 50 to 75, and he went 166th. And it didn't really make a great deal of sense. He had an injury, which I'm guessing played a big impact in that. And you don't know how teams are grading with the injury thing, so that's probably one of the reasons why he fell. But when you watched Colorado State, and this was not a good Colorado State team, he was the one who was constantly just making plays every single game. You would watch a Colorado State game to see him perform, and then when he wasn't there, it was noticeable. His body control, his just consistency, his ability to make the big player and also the key play when he needed to. He was just a production machine, and all-round ability, return ability as well is probably going to be important for Seattle. He felt like somebody, well, first of all, who had no business lasting to round 5. But if you are going to now look for the next, who is that day 3 receiver who can come into the league and have an impact in the way that this is not a comparison because they're different players, but can come in and have that kind of impact that Puka Nacua has had. I think he in this draft class, once he'd lasted to day 3, was going to give you as much chance of creating that as anybody. So it's really encouraging that he's had a good start to camp. They needed somebody to step up to the plate at that position because they need another receiver. So this is all really encouraging that he can have some kind of an impact as a rookie.
Yeah, it's crazy exciting too to just think, where he fell in the draft, getting production, like kind of what we're seeing out of a 5th rounder in just 11, 12 days of camp. It's really exciting, but I'm interested to know, just for the guys who have been on campus and at the practice field, what's his personality? Like, what's this guy like?
You want to take that, Mike? Start.
I missed his press conference yesterday. Were you in that?
I wasn't. I have interviewed him one-on-one, but
okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, he's mild-mannered. He's a quiet guy. He's not. I gave him the opportunity to give a little belt to ass, like Jalen Milroe said when I asked him about what message he would send to the teams that passed on him. I was like, hey, everyone's calling you the steal of the draft, but I'm guessing for you, like, you don't want to be the steal of the draft. You wanted to be drafted in the 2nd round or, higher in the first place. But do you have any thoughts? You carry a chip for those teams that passed on you. And he's like, no, like, that's not, I'm out to prove myself. He's like one of those, I'm going to prove myself right versus motivated by proving others wrong kind of guys. And so I think he also going through the injury was obviously a big deal for him. And it's not one of the standard injuries. Everyone's like, oh, he had an ACL. Like I had to correct a bunch of like national folks. It wasn't an ACL. It was an LCL and a hamstring. And it's a different kind of injury with a different kind of recovery. And the fact that he was 2 weeks removed from getting approved to run, and he was out in the combine field running a 4.4 speaks to what Mike was talking about before. He's a special athlete, and I think he's confident in that, and I think he's really eager. Like the impression I get is he's just eager to prove it out in the field and not talk much about it until that happens.
It is always interesting how the guys view their slide, quote unquote, in the draft. You get dudes who are like Richard Sherman, who was like still mad at everyone for making him wait. He's mad at Pete for making him wait. And Pete's always like, dude, I picked you. Like, why are you mad at me? Like, why would you do that? And there are just some guys who are like, hey man, God is good. I got picked. Who cares? Like, I want to make the team, insert team here that believed in me, proud. And there's no wrong, to be clear. I would probably be really pissed. I wasn't like a first rounder. I'd be like irrationally confident. But it tells a lot about a guy's personality, I think, how they kind of receive that initial draft position. You know, look at how a guy like Kobe Bryant took it. He's like, oh, you guys are bugging. It was a Jim Thorpe winner. What the hell am I doing back here on day 3? Or even DK, I think he asked the Seahawks what took them so long, I think, while in tears. But he was a second round pick. It is kind of funny. Jamal Adams tweeted one day, he was like, I remember everyone who was drafted ahead of me. He was like, bro, you were pick 6. What are you talking about? I think Marshawn Lattimore called him out.
5.
Yeah, Marshawn Lattimore is in that same draft. He tweeted him back and was like, bro, that was 5 people. You are not some underdog. But that spoke to Jamal's personality, though. He kind of wanted to manufacture that Michael Jordan, not take everything personal type of attitude. Whereas like some guys like Tory are like, nah, it's cool. I love the Seahawks. They picked me. Now I'm about to go ball out.
Yeah, and just toughness too is what I'm hearing from him and his character and through the adversities that he's faced, physically and just through his own football journey. And something that I've heard him repeat multiple times is just that he didn't waste his time off the field. He used that like off the field mental preparation and watching film and just studying. And really as athletes, you can either use that time when you're injured to really be wasted, or you can evolve and actually get better. Now you're seeing all these players who are using like VR to like practice and study film and get better off the field. I know my coach in college was huge on just visualization. So I think I've just loved his toughness just from what I've seen and heard from him, but also just looking at his story. But I'd love to know just more about maybe the culture of this team, because I know Darnold has been really impressed with Horton and just how he's asked questions and wants to know more. And I know you guys have reported on how Leonard Williams has really pulled guys aside and the younger guys and leading them. And I've been out here in Foxborough and Boston covering the Patriots, and under this new Vrabel regime, that's really what we're seeing is these older guys, these veteran players who are really helping and mentoring the young guys who they're probably competing with. So I'd love to just know, what's the biggest difference in your guys' mind from maybe the Carroll regime into now Mike MacDonald's second year team? And Brian, we can start with you.
Well, I mean, that's a big one. I mean, the biggest difference between the Pete Carroll regime and this one, I would say I'll give you a positive and a negative. And I happen to be someone who's quite positive about, the time that it was the right time to make a change, even though I'm a huge fan of Pete Carroll. The positive is I think Mike MacDonald is so much more forward-looking and modern in a lot of the football stuff that he's doing, the sophistication of the schemes that he is running. I think his investment in, some of the modern things are a little, not that Pete was like a Luddite, but there were some things that Pete was, I think, reaching. When you get into talking analytics with Pete, it always felt a little bit forced. On the side that Pete is just going to always be the best maybe of anyone to ever coach is, his ability to relate to players and motivate the individual and understand what they need at any given time. I don't think you're ever going to find somebody that is as skilled as he is at that. And so those are two things that I call out as different. And I think the attention to some of the sophistication and the modern stuff for Mike MacDonald, I think, showed up in terms of players on defense having their best seasons and the defense itself taking a huge jump. But I'd be curious about Rob's thoughts there.
Well, the big difference between Mike MacDonald last season and Pete Carroll for the last 5 was that Mike MacDonald had a good defense. But apart from that, I think look, the main thing is I actually think this situation that Carroll is in now is best for him, because he has gone to a franchise where he is not sort of the main player. There's a lot of big Pete personalities involved there, including an owner with a ridiculous haircut and Tom Brady. And then you've got Max Crosby, who's like Mr. Raiders and stuff like that as well. So you have a lot of things going on there. And I think as part of the deal of Pete getting that chance to be the Raiders coach, it was kind of like, Pete, you know, we're going to pick the offensive coordinator and we're going to pick the defensive coordinator, and you're going to be a figurehead. You're going to be the head coach. We want all of the things that come with Pete Carroll, but we want the coordinators to kind of run the systems and make the adjustments and decide the scheming. We just want all of the things that you do better than probably anybody else in the NFL as that figurehead. And that will probably work for Pete. In Seattle, I'm afraid it was just too much of Pete Carroll's. It was his guys sort of in the coaching staff. It was his vision. It was his decision-making. And I think Carroll getting this chance to go on, if he was the figurehead in Seattle, I think it would have worked for a bit longer than it ended up doing. But he wasn't. And now Seattle's got a head coach in Mike MacDonald. He's looking after the defense, and the defense is working. He's putting people. They got it wrong last year with the offensive coordinator. We'll see how Kubiak and his group get on this year. But I think that is the direction that Seattle had to go in now. So I think it's probably the best for Pete. It's the best for the Seahawks that they're both in the places they are in now.
Spoken like a true Seahawks through and through fan, always wanting the best interest for Pete Carroll as well. So I love that.
Yeah, I think, man, there's a lot of differences culturally. I think that one of the things that really benefited Pete was outside of like that first year when there was a few guys who had either played for him in New England or played for him at USC. Everyone kind of was growing together. Everyone was starting together. Everyone was around this. All his players were around the same age, acquired around this same little window. So it was kind of easier to buy into the stuff because it was a lot that it was in some cases all those guys knew. It was like, oh, well, how Pete's teaching us is just how it works. So that's it. And if you weren't on board with that, it kind of got you out of there pretty fast. Whereas like Mike's blending a lot of different stuff. And I think that can go a couple different ways, but the blend kind of makes it, we're learning a lot more on the fly. Whereas Pete literally had a book come out the year he took the Seahawks job where it was like, here's who I am and here's how it works and blah, blah, blah. Whereas with Mike, we were watching the book being written in real time. And so the players got to kind of deal with that too. They got to navigate all of the adjustable stuff, the fluidity of the culture. Like he has all these sayings, chasing edges, 12 is 1, it's all this like marketing tagline stuff, which is fine, but it's still all fluid. One of his lines is principles are set in stone, methods are adjustable. So he's moving everything, whether it's when they practice, whether they sleep in the hotels during road games, or during home games, all this stuff is just fluid. Meeting times, yada, yada, yada. So the culture though, some of that stuff is fluid too. And you're kind of seeing that fill itself out in real time. I think the defense is way ahead. They kind of know who they are. They know the standard. They got their inside jokes. They got their little like sayings. Julian Love mentioned one to me today. It was like HPS. I forget what it stood for, but it's like a defensive inside language thing. Whereas the offense, and this is the other thing about Mike, it kind of feels like two teams separately a little bit, just because he calls one side of the ball too. So whereas Pete was kind of CEO guy, Mike feels like head coach, but also like his defense is one team. And then like his offense is another team a little bit with its own type of mindset. And you can see that play out in practice too. Like there are some days where the defense doesn't shut up. Like Spoon's talking, D Hall's talking, or whoever's talking. And then the offense is like not a peep. Not that that's bad. They're still figuring out who they are. Because I think that's kind of almost like its own separate team. It's interesting. It's not bad or good. I think it's different. Like, there's a difference between the regimes, a very notable, noticeable one.
And I just one other note there. I mean, like Mike Holmgren was very much the offensive coach, and he for years had a defensive coordinator that kind of took that side of the ball. Andy Reid certainly coaches the whole team, but Steve Spagnuolo, like, he owns the defensive side, and so it's not uncommon to have a coach who specializes in one side of the ball, but they do have to have enough of a philosophy about the other side of the ball to know who should be that like kind of general or like leader of the other side of the ball, and to be able to have enough knowledge of that to be able to test it and pressure test it and say, okay, is this really right? And does it fit the identity? When we interviewed Mike to start last year, he almost talked about it like, well, that's really not my business. Like the offense, like it's not for me to say. I don't know that's like, and I was like, Pete is a guy that when he got fired 17 times or whatever it was, he spent a lot of time developing his offensive philosophy. And so to your point, Mike, he came to Seattle with a much more fully fleshed out vision of what a complete football team was and how it all connects together. And I think you said it really well. I think Mike is in the process of developing some of those things, but I think the jump from year one to year two seems like it's happening, but the proof will be like, there's a lot of bets that they've made on the offensive side of the ball. Those have to come to fruition, or at least be on the right track, or else it will be like, oh, is this just a one side of the ball coach?
Well, yeah, and that's what you saw in the draft with just where the Seahawks spent their attention, right? In their high draft picks on the offensive side. And I think that comes with time too, right? Like you build relationships, you get louder as an offense, you come together as defense and offense. It's it's all about time. If you don't spend your moments on the field together, you're not going to be talking as much. But I do want to get into some injury updates, because I know there were even some new things today, and that's certain in the NFL that there's going to be a very high injury rate. And that's the balance that we have to have with training camp and going into preseason, right? Like, how do you play hard and play tough, but also stay healthy? So Brian, I guess we'll just go back to you. What's the main concern for you right now on the injury side of things?
I don't know that there's a primary concern on the injury side other than, you could say, Charles Cross had surgery on his hand, but he's already been back out in pads and just not doing contact stuff. You could say Uchenna Nwosu, who's on PUP and hasn't played yet, but I don't know that he's a central figure in what they're doing defensively. Obviously AJ Finley was lost for the year. He was not necessarily someone you expect to even make the 53, depending on how things played out. So, Ernest Jones has kind of been in and out, but seems to be like most of that's been personal related stuff. Shaquille Griffin's been gone for personal related things. Jonathan Hankins is on NFI, but again, I'm not so sure that's not kind of a nudge, nudge, wink, wink. We don't need you in training camp, and maybe one of these young nose tackles will step forward type of thing anyway. So, I don't know. Mike, Rob, is there an injury that's got your attention that I'm not thinking about?
No, I think of the ones you mentioned, Chen is the one that for me is, I think it's a concern just because we're hearing the talk that they're going to need to sign somebody else. And there's the Jadeveon Clowney stuff seems to still be an option there. And I think you just ideally not feel like you need another pass rusher at this stage in the year. That's one position you'd like to have everybody in and sorted at this point. And I don't know what's Clowney. If it is Clowney, if you have to sign Clowney because Chenna's not going to be there, and Chenna when he's playing is excellent. What Clowney are you going to get? Are you going to get the one that played for the Ravens the season before last, or are you going to get the Clowney who seems to be sort of completing a world tour last season, who's already got one sort of eye on retirement? Like what Clowney are you going to get? So if it ends up being him, that could be an issue where 2 or 3 games into the season, you're thinking, when's Chenna going to be 100%? Because we need him back to add to the rotation.
I get nervous when guys have a knee thing that's not specified, just because maybe that's just years of covering Pete and some of those guys. Like it'll be a knee. Dude, even Kenny McIntosh that year, I don't think Pete ever went into detail, and Kenny missed like 12, 13 games or something. He just kept saying he's got a knee. It's like, well, yeah, he has 2 knees actually, Pete. What's wrong with the one? That means he can't play football, and he just would never go into detail. And I bring that up to say Tyrese has a knee thing now, and we don't know what that is. He got hurt at the end of yesterday's practice and didn't play today. And they said they're going to get imaging on it. Now, easily could be like, oh, he's got a knee bruise and he'll be back in a week. Or it could be like Kenny's was. Or, I think they were calling Jamal Adams thing a knee or quadricep whatever, how those bones and tendons connect. And he basically needed like 2 years to be able to get right. It's weird. The knees are all weird. Sometimes guys come back, but they're not back like Abe came back from the knee, but then he wasn't himself. Trey Brown after his knee thing. Anyway, I don't have to rattle off all the knee injuries. So anyway, though, Chenna and Tyrese for those 2 reasons, like especially when it's not specified. If you told me knee bruise, cool. Even if you're like, guy blew his patella tendon, whatever. Okay, well, that's bad, but at least I know. If you just say he's got a knee, all right, what is that? I'm kind of scarred. Pete ruined me, I guess, in that regard, by just always saying guys got a knee. So I'm hopeful, fingers crossed, that Tyrese doesn't have to miss a lot of time. I'm not thrilled about the depth there. Mm-hmm. I kind of like Drake Jackson a little bit, or not Drake Thomas. Thank you. I like Drake Thomas a little bit. I'm not like a huge Patrick O'Connell guy, and then that's kind of it. Kind of gets real thin there. So I'm like TBD. I'm being worried about that because after Ernest, it's not a lot of guys I feel comfortable with them going out there with week 1.
That's a really good point, because unlike the Uchenna situation where there's some depth on the edge side, and especially if they go out and sign a Clowney or something like that, they're really pretty set there. Inside linebacker is fascinating. That is Mike MacDonald. Like, that's what he came up coaching, was linebackers. Like, that was his first love in the game, was linebackers. And everyone saw going to this offseason, they had Ernest Jones and Tyrese Knight as the starters. But then it was like, oh, they don't have much depth. They've got to add someone in free agency. They've got to add someone in the draft. And they didn't do either of them. So either Mike MacDonald really likes Drake Thomas and Patty O'Connell and Josh Ross, who, by the way, also, we found out today, had surgery on his hand. But I don't know, it didn't sound like as serious. But if you go down like Tyrese Knight and you're playing a Drake Thomas or a Patty O'Connell next to Ernest Jones, that's a pretty significant difference compared to Uchenna Nwosu versus Boye Mafe or Derek Hall or DeMarcus
Right,
Ford.
exactly. The drop off is serious there, especially week 1 if they got to play against Shanahan. I'll just feast on whoever your weak side linebacker is. That's a tough spot to play in today's game. So yeah, depending on what the imaging says, my worry meter on that could be real high.
Well, it doesn't sound like you guys are sounding the alarms just from what we're hearing so far and at practice, and even with Charles Cross just being kind of back, right? But I'd love to know, is there a certain position group that you guys feel, hey, if we don't have depth here or we get injuries in this group, sound the alarms?
Is there a group? Well, tackle. could get real dicey at tackle. Yeah, and then inside linebacker.
Inside linebacker is the biggest one, and then maybe a little bit at corner. If Josh Jobe were to go down, depending on how you feel about, like, I like Demarion Williams. I think he's had a nice camp, but I don't know that they've got, like, people I think undersell Josh Jobe coming into the lineup last year and how it helped. Everyone's like, oh, that's when we got Ernest Jones, but it's also when Kobe Bryant started playing safety and Josh Jobe started playing corner and Roy Robertson Harris started playing. Like, there's a lot of changes, and I think Josh Jobe gets a little sold short in that regard. So, I'm not as big of a fan of what I've seen from Nehemiah Pritchett. I'm not sure he's going to make the roster, and so that would be the other one for me. But yeah, like, tackle's an interesting one too. Like, Rob, like, they signed Josh Jones to be a swing tackle, and he's taking the reps for Charles Cross. I gotta say, like, I don't see it so far. Like, I see a guy getting beat in pass protection a lot, and I still find Mike Jarrell to be a more interesting prospect, but he's still like a second-year player out of a small school.
Yeah, well, there's about 23 teams in the NFL without one offensive tackle. So if you lose the ones that you have, and I think the Seahawks have got a couple of starters who are, have got a lot of potential to reach a new level this year if they can stay healthy, and fingers crossed that they do. And if that happens, Charles Cross will be a very handsomely paid player by this time next year, and Abe Lucas may well be as well. So there's a lot of stake for those two guys. If they go out, we're going to see nightmares on the offensive line again. And maybe you could even sort of say, if you lose Grace Abel, that's a lot of pressure to put on him as well. I wouldn't want to lose him at left guard. So I think that offensive line is always a big problem. It doesn't matter who you are. There are very few teams with a loaded offensive line. I mean, even the Lions have lost, Frank Ragnow. So they're having to shape things around. We've seen the Rams win a Super Bowl, and then they lose their left tackle. They've been trying to scrambling around looking for a center for a few years now. There's a lot of teams trying to work things out. And if you have to, you can maybe, I really hope that Tyrese Knight's okay and the depth's not amazing at linebacker. If the Seahawks had to play half the season without Tyrese Knight, I don't think it would derail the season, potentially. Although I suppose the linebacker situation did almost do it.
It could get bad.
I think they'd play a lot of dime. I think Nicky Moore would be on the field a lot more. I think you think have a lot of 2 safety looks, like, or 4, like 3 or 4 safety looks. Like, I think they play a lot of dime. But I mean, the Rams played 26% dime last year. So, like, it's not crazy for teams to just go all in on extra defensive backs. They've got they've got some guys that they like in that spot. But I mean, that's this question. Everyone's like, "Oh, is Nicky Moore playing? Like, is he competing for a safety spot?" He's competing with Josh Jobe, like, to be on the field. Like, whether they're going to be in big nickel or whether they're going to be in little nickel, and that determines whether Nick's on the field or Jobe's on the field. And I think beyond that, the dime thing is going to be interesting, and that's going to affect the linebacker spot about whether there's 1 linebacker on the field or 2.
Yeah, these preseason games are also going to be interesting. Sorry, Annabelle.
No,
just
you're good.
one last thing on this is depending on how these preseason games look at receiver, I could want to put like Jackson in bubble wrap maybe, because like you got a bunch of gambles there. They're all guys I like. I'm writing about them for my little game preview thing because like every guy, all the other guys who are kind of unsure about, they do have something they bring. Like in a perfect world, Derek is everything you want Marquez to be, right? Big, strong, really fast guy on the outside. Like he has that, but can he do it? Cody gets open as well as anybody, but mostly does it again as a twos, kind of we're talking about with Tory. Bobo, arguably the best route runner on the team. Him and Jax, I think like Jake's really, really good, really, really crisp, but he just hasn't done it. So it's a bunch of hasn't done it. And then Cooper Kupp is so goddamn physical, and I love that. But at his age, I think me and him are the same age, but at his age, like how can you do that 17 games? Probably not. That's why he hasn't. So we could get to a point, depending on how these games go, where I'm like, all right, Jackson shouldn't even practice. Like, put that guy in bubble wrap till week 1, because there is very similar, I would say, to the inside linebacker drop off. There is like that at receiver too. Like Jackson's like really high in, and I think after that you got a bunch of like, okay, who do we build this passing game around type of situation.
AB, I don't know if you saw it. There's in the chat, there's a super chat that came through. If you click on starred in the little comments tab, there's a super chat from Canadian Hawks.
Okay.
Do you see that yet? If you go over to,
yes, show.
And you click that on there. It's on topic. I thought you might want to put it up there.
Sweet. Let's see. Oh, yes. Well, that's what I wanted to get to, because it seems like, and I know, Rob, you brought up Clowney earlier, but it seems like every NFL fan base feels like they too could be entitled for benefiting from a Micah Parsons, or, Clowney is now in the mix. So I'd love to know just from you guys, where do you see the Seahawks fitting in this race, really?
Well, I'm just trying to think. The problem at the minute, if we're talking about acquiring players here, is that when you get to training camp, why are these players? They're either players that are essentially sitting out camp because they don't want to do it, or they're not very good. So as we're kind of looking at this super chat here, what are some of the inside linebacker options? Are there any? None spring to mind. There's not really anybody out there that is. I'm trying to dig a list out here of who's still available.
It's not great. I'm with Brian. I think we could see, to give you another example of a team that kind of went all in on the small ball, was the Dan Quinn Cowboys, I think in 2023, the team that got shellacked by the Packers in the playoffs. Like, that team was playing pretty small, and that's why they were able to get run all over. And they I think had Deron Bland getting a bunch of picks that kind of inflated their numbers a little bit. Micah played well, but that team was just light in the butt. And I think the Seahawks could run into that type of problem. Because, I don't really love the depth there. Maybe Josh Ross can play with a club.
It's Josie Jewell. I thought, did he retire or something? I don't know.
See, if you have to ask that, it's to Rob's point.
It's rough. Like Devondre Campbell, who walked out on the 49ers last year. Like, yeah, like it's not like, I don't think that's where they'd go. I think that they would go internally. I think Derek Jackson might have a chance to move up the
Jamie
depth chart.
Sheriff.
Yeah, Jamie Sheriff. Jamie Sheriff's actually had a good camp, right? Like, I think Jamie Sheriff's actually, I'm shocked that he looks like he is somewhat comfortable at inside linebacker.
Yeah, I think we'll be looking at something like that. Jamie's just a ball player, though. I do like that. It's like to the back a little bit, circling to like the culture of this team. It does seem like on defense that they're trying to get to the point where it's like they're playing beyond, like, just play ball. That's the idea. It's not, all right, we're playing cover 2, you've got the hook, blah blah blah. Like, nah, bro, like, play ball. What do you see? What do you see next to you? Like, be a ball player. And to do that, sometimes you have to know other positions as well. It does seem like they're trying to establish that as well. And that's why you get some guys to change spots or play a bunch of different things. Like, dude, just be a ball player. You could even see it in some of the draft stuff when we asked John or whatever, oh, what do you like about this guy? It's like, yeah, he can play all on the D line. I think that's what they said about Riley Mills, or he can do all this. He can play this technique, this shape, blah, blah, blah. Because you just got to be a ball player. I think that's ultimately what's going to weed some of these guys out over time with Mike MacDonald's defense. Like, if you're just only good at like this one thing, it might be tough. Or if you're just like a by the book guy, like, oh, I got my deep third and cover 3, that's it. It's like, nah, bro, read. What are we seeing? What's the splits? What's this? Like, play ball, go make plays. Like, Jamie is like one of those guys. I think he's probably going to have a really good preseason. I could see that. I could also see Tyreek Smith making a lot of plays off the edge too. I'm hoping he does. He's like one of my draft pet guys that I like.
Rob, did you like Tyreek Smith? Like, I didn't know much about Tyreek Smith. I just thought he wasn't that impressive when I first saw him, but he's having a good camp. He's showing up against the run on the edge, and he had some nice pass rush today in 1v1s. He's given some guys trouble. That's not a guy I had on my bingo card for, like, this guy might make the roster.
At the Senior Bowl, he really sort of stood out because he had a great fight on the field in Mobile. And I think it was against, my memory is absolutely terrible. I think it's like you hit 40 and your memory stops working. Who's the tackle for the first round tackle for the Saints that none of us wanted the Seahawks to
Oh, Trevor Penning. Yeah. He was fighting everybody.
Terrible way to introduce somebody. Nobody wanted him.
Yeah, I think if memory serves, Tyreek Smith had a fight with Trevor Penning that was quite interesting. Was it Penny? Oh, sorry, he had a fight.
Probably was. That dude was fighting everybody out. That's why people didn't want him too. It was like, dude, he was fighting people after the Saints drafted him. It's like fighting people in like rookie camp. So yeah, it was probably him.
But Smith had a really good Senior Bowl, and he'd not really sort of had a major impact at Ohio State in terms of massive production and getting the kind of hype that a pass rusher from Ohio State would typically get. But at the Senior Bowl, he was definitely one of those players who catches your eye and you think, wow, do you know what? If you could get him later on, he felt like he gave himself a boost. I was really happy when they took him in the 5th round. And obviously, he's bounced around a little bit and then he's come back. I'm glad that to hear that he's having a good camp because there was a player in there. You could see it. I mean, he is what he is. He's not a big guy, not an amazing athlete, but he did show something in Mobile. So it's good to hear that he's doing well.
That's good. Well, you guys, it's going to be a big week because Thursday we got the Raiders, and I heard there's already been crowd noise at practice blaring through the speakers, just getting ready for Pete Carroll's return to Seattle. So emotions are going to be really high whenever you have something as wild and crazy like that. 14 seasons with the Seattle Seahawks. I can just imagine the loud cheer that he's going to get in the beginning of that game. But I know, Brian, you sat down with Mike Jarrell, and even though he wasn't coached by Pete Carroll, he definitely already seemed like he could feel the energy and knows that it's going to just be a wild environment. So what do you think Lumen Field is going to be like during that preseason game?
I think it's going to be as like lit as a preseason game can be. Like, honestly, like, I think there's going to be a buzz with Pete Carroll walking on the field. I think he's going to get, I wouldn't be surprised if it was among the loudest ovations of the night. If Pete plays his starters, I'm really curious what the reception will be to Geno Smith. Like, having sat in the stands the last few years and been a big fan of Geno Smith and a big supporter of his, there's a lot of fans that did not want him here, like a lot of fans. And so I think you'll hear more boos, probably, not only because they were mixed feelings about him when he was here, but because a lot of people have perceived it to be that he forced his way out of here. I don't really see it that way, but in any event, that's going to be interesting. And to see Pete Carroll, like, this could very well be the last time Pete Carroll steps on the field in Seattle, and he wasn't really afforded the opportunity to have this going away moment. So, like, I hope for his sake that it's what, you know, I think we probably all imagine. I think Mike MacDonald handled the questions well this week, you know, saying that he should be cheered and that he's a great figure here. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be an odd preseason game for the Seahawks, where the energy is a little bit different than 100% behind the home team. But it will, once the game starts and the plays are being made, obviously all the you know, the energy will go to the Seahawks.
Yeah, one of my homies, actually, no, not one of my, yeah, he is one of my homies, but our Raiders writer, Tashawn, he asked me today, he was like, what do you think? How do you think the fans are going to react? That's like, I think it'll be really good, you know, to Pete. You know, people don't hate Pete like they hated Russ. Like, Russ getting booed in 2022, that was like super predictable, you know, because the perception was that he forced himself out, and he did, you know, so they were right. So it's a little bit different there. But yeah, and also Pete's like, it was kind of clear. I think they should have, if they were going to fire Pete, they should have just fired John too. I think they should have just cleaned house. But like, there was, I can agree, it was probably time, you know, for like big changes here. And people just kind of could see that. Like, Pete wasn't an asshole. He wasn't a bad guy. And Pete's just fun too. Quirky dude, you know, gum chewing, sprint or foot punt return catching, you know, like, it's just a big shoe wearing,
Air Monarch
like
wearing.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of a fun guy. So I'm looking forward to that. It's a preseason game, and I have small kids at home, so I would actually like to show up at the stadium at like 6:45 p.m. for a 7 p.m. kick as late as possible. But because it's Pete, I might be there at like 4:30 just to see him shake hands with people and sign autographs. I'm sure he'll do that. Like that. That'd be a cool moment because, like you said, Brian, who knows when we see Pete again in Lumen? We might not. So I think it's going to be a really cool moment.
Yeah, Pete Carroll's going to get a fantastic reception, and rightly so. I think he's one of a kind, isn't he? You know, I'm putting aside the grudge that I have that he has amazing hair in his 70s and I don't in my 40s. But he is obviously a fantastic Seahawks legend. And if you were ever going to consider building some form of statue outside the stadium, Pete Carroll would be a great possibility to have. You know, he brought the first ever Super Bowl to Seattle. You know, for some reason this week I must have clicked on the right thing it is pumping through on my YouTube algorithm, like pretty much every game from 2013 and 2014. Thankfully it doesn't show one particular game from the 2014 season. I'm sure that's on the cards in the coming days, that it'll pop up, but he deserves everything that he gets. And I just I just hope that once this celebration of Pete Carroll is over, that the season does not become a let's compare the Seahawks to the Raiders campaign. I fear that it will be a little bit of that every time the Raiders have a good day, and that you just know it's going to coincide with the Seahawks having a bad day. When that happens, we're going to have a week of that. And the vice versa will happen too. The Seahawks will play very well, and maybe it will follow a week where everyone's gone, see, they should have kept Pete, they should have kept Gino. And then the week after that, you know, the Raiders will play badly, or Gino will have a couple of picks, and everyone will do the reverse. I don't think it'll do anybody any good to look back throughout this season. I think it's have this celebration on Thursday, and then let's draw a line under it. Remember the good times. Forget about some of the ways that it ended, and just cling to the fact that Pete Carroll delivered a Super Bowl to Seattle. I think sometimes we almost spend too much time thinking about the Super Bowl Seattle lost, and understandably so, given what happened and all of the drama that came after it. But the Seahawks won a Super Bowl with Pete Carroll as head coach, and I'll never forget that day. And I kind of wish we could remember that a bit more than what happened 12 months later sometimes.
For full disclosure, I'm going to do exactly that all year, by the way, is compare the... No, I have mostly Gino and Sam, to be honest, because it's a genuine curiosity there, because I think Gino's so much better, so we'll just see how that bears out. Maybe not Mike and Pete as much, but definitely Gino and Sam, because that was like an active choice. You'd be like, Gino, you can go. Not to say that what they should have done or relitigate, but it'll just be cool to kind of compare how they play. I am very curious about that.
Well, one thing that's different about, I mean, you mentioned what some of the things that are different about when Russ left versus Gino, but the other difference was that was a trade that resulted in a next year's draft pick. So as Russ and the Broncos just plummeted that season,
It was really
not
that
only
road
did
trip
it
demise,
kind of
yeah.
prove like there's the Russ versus Pete debate for all those years. It proved that Pete was the good guy and Russ was like helped, but like that was kind of how people walked away with it. And it gave the Seahawks like the 5th pick in the draft the next year because it turned into Devin Witherspoon. So you don't have that like rooting interest in the same way from a Seahawks fan perspective, but there are strong feelings about Geno Smith. And for me, I think it's a shame. I think he was a great quarterback for this team during a really challenging transitional period without much support during that time. And I think he's going to have a hell of a year. And I hope he has a hell of a year in Vegas. Indoors, a lot of times, good weather, better offensive line, better play caller. I wish him nothing but the best. I just hope the Seahawks do a little bit better.
Yeah. You know, what really hurt Geno, I think, is he almost like had his peak Seahawks moment and like literally his first start. 2022. Well, actually, it wasn't his first start, but that first start of that season, like it doesn't really get better than like beating the Broncos on Monday Night Football with Russ there, and then why can't I remember the line? Right, it's his best line.
Right back.
Yeah. That's they wrote me off fighting right back. Like, kidding me? That's the end of somebody's documentary or movie.
Or your book.
Like that was
or your book.
Yeah. Do I have that in there? I think I have that in there. I have a section with Geno in there towards the end. But like, yeah, that usually is the end of the thing. Like, all right, now roll the credits. That was Geno's start. And it's hard unless you win some playoff games, it's tough to get much better than that. And yeah, his outdoor-indoor splits were really bad. They needed to build Geno a dome if they were going to pay him.
Well, we started this conversation off just talking about the emotions with Pete Carroll, but you're bringing up Geno. And I remember when my dad first played back at in Seattle and just what that was like, just from him talking to me about it. Like, he was like, it was just weird being in the opposite locker room. Like, he was like, didn't understand it, right? And I think for me, just watching as a family member, I wanted to throw up the whole time. I was watching the game on TV. I'm like, something about this is just not right. So you can just bet that those emotions are going to be real, regardless if you're a fan or you're Geno Smith, right? Like, those are things that are really going to be present in this game, even though it's a preseason game. But fast forward, it's 10 p.m. on Thursday in Seattle, but by that time where Rob is, it'll be 6 a.m. in the UK. He'll already be living in the next day. So Rob, we'll start with you. Friday at 6 a.m. What does success look like in this game against the Raiders?
No injuries. I hate preseason games, and that is not just because I have to stay up till 3 o'clock in the morning to watch them. And I always say that I'm not going to do that, and then I always do because I'm stupid. But I will probably stay up and watch this game.
You got your tea and maybe some cheese. So
there will definitely be some tea. Yeah, maybe some cheese. There may not be some cheese. Tune in next week to find out if there was some cheese. But definitely, I think no injuries. And I think maybe just to see some of the rookies have a good game and feel like, you know, we are hearing some of the positivity about this rookie class. We've spent a bit of time talking about it tonight. It'd be great to see Tory Horton get a few grams. It'd be great to see Elijah Arroyo do the same. Nick Emmanwori just have a play of some kind and then swiftly get him off the field so that it doesn't get hurt. You know, those kind of things. Jalen Milroe having a couple of series where he looks pretty good at being encouraging. So those are all the things that I'm looking for. I hope no one gets booed on the Raiders side of from Carroll or Geno's point of view. You can boo the rest of them. I don't care. But that's what I'm hoping for. I don't care about the results or anything like that. Just no injuries and a good day for the rookies.
Brian, Mike, what's success to you guys quickly before we wrap here?
Yeah, for me, it's pretty simple. I don't think that the fan base has really they haven't really come to the Seahawks team yet. They haven't embraced them yet since the Mike MacDonald era has started. And so for them to have that happen, I mean, fans love defense, but they really need to see offense. And so success to me on Thursday is that this team actually sustains drives and scores touchdowns. I don't care if it's Drew Lock. I don't care if it's Jalen Milroe. I don't care if it's Marshall Lang catching. Like, they need to move the ball on offense and give fans some reason to be optimistic that there's going to be points scored. Honestly, I think both Drew Lock and Jalen Milroe put them in good position to do that. And I think there's a decent chance that Jalen Milroe is going to be the guy that everybody is talking about come Friday morning.
Yeah, I want to see an efficient run game, like run the ball, like run for like 200, with multiple back. Like just show, even if it's not the starters, just show that the scheme can work here. And also really good. Maybe I'm the only one who cares about really good special teams because like I wasn't like super sold on like Jay Harbaugh last year either. Like Pete usually had like a pretty high floor for special teams too. And the bottom dropped out for sections last year is another thing that I'm evaluating relative to the past too, but just also in the present, you need good special teams. So I'm hoping all that goes well too. Coverage, not JMI, but like coverage, return. Everyone holds on to the ball. They couldn't do that last year. So run the ball well and like make sure the special teams is solid. I don't really care what the defense does, but that'll be success for me.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll see if those things happen. And just Mike, while we're on the topic of you, what's coming up next week is the big book. Anything else we should be alert with?
Just man, August 12th. Thank you again. Shameless plug opportunity. I'm doing my first book signing at Third Place Books in Seward Park, August 12th at 7 p.m. I'm also doing a book release party on August 10th at Jamar's Sports Bar in Des Moines at 4 o'clock till close. So come have a drink with me. I'm signing books at both of those events. Follow me on social media. I got all the details for both of those events.
Brian, hard to follow, but what do you have coming up this week?
I do not have a book coming out anytime soon. I do not have that in me at this current moment. But yeah, tomorrow night will be Real Hawk Talk. I'll be on with Jeff Simmons and Nathan Ernst. Be looking forward to talking with them. And then I'll do a pregame, probably postgame show for Thursday for the game. So lots of good stuff coming up.
Good stuff. Hey, you just transcribe all your live streams from Twitter. Like you got volumes there. Okay.
That's true.
So there's your book right there. You can get me in on the commission of that for the idea. And then Rob, anything going on with your channel?
Well, yes. I want to apologize though to any Seahawks fans who follow me for the last few months because it has been a constant stream of day job stuff, and it's not usually like that. But it's been a crazy summer. But I have managed to save some time this week to do a bit of scouting. So I promise that I've watched some of the college players that are eligible for the next draft. I will write something about that, I promise, in the next 7 days. So SeahawksShopLog.com for that.
I love it. Well, guys, this has been so fun for me. And thank you all for watching, Seahawks fans and beyond. This was this week's Seahawks Collective show. I'm Annabelle Hasselbeck. We will see you all next week. Go Hawks!